All right, we have another tournament that's been announced. We've got the Great Outdoors Tournament. It's going to start on August 5th. That's my wedding anniversary, so not sure how much playing I'll get done on that day. And the holes are kind of spread out between Eagle Peak and Greenock Point. And Greenock Point is probably my favorite course in the game. So let's go to Golf Clash Notebook and hole number 1 of the Golden. So if you get your notes out, hole number 1 of the Golden Outdoors Tournament is going to be on Eagle Peak. It's a par 4 and it's hole number 1. Now I set up a playlist with all of these holes from previous tournaments, and the only hole I don't have is hole number 4, and I put a short video on there just demoing that hole, but all of these holes were shot under tournament conditions. This hole right here, there's 2 ways to go with this hole. You can come down into this landing zone down here. Best serve with a QB because you got lots of curl and a 3 side spin ball, and you're going to have a long iron into the green. I'm going to come at it out here with a big topper and a Titan and just go for it. And this is a max overpower shot. You can bring a 4 power ball. The risk with a 4 power ball is you're just trying to clear these trees. So the risk with a 4 power ball, especially if you hit high, is you run out of fairway out here real quick when you're on this side. But if you bring a 4 power ball, there is a risk that you could blow through the fairway and actually end up in the rough over here. Now you can get on, but ideally you want to be in the fairway. Now there's a small little window. So the deal is that you can get farther out, but if you take where the pin's at, we zoom in a little bit closer on the pin down here. You start from the pin and you draw a circle around it. Okay? You could bring a 4 power ball and you could get more distance, but that doesn't necessarily mean on the arc that you're going to end up inside the arc and actually have a shorter shot to the green. So if you're coming down here with a bigger power ball, the deal is that you want to start your shot off farther. What I would do is start my shot off farther to the right and try and give myself a landing area out here so that my curl can come in and I can try and get farther into this fairway neck as opposed to going deeper into the fairway neck. That way you can get into your short iron range. Where a 3 power ball puts me right past these trees, if you get out into this area, excuse me, is I'm right there on the transition between my short and my long iron. So sometimes I'm in my short iron range, sometimes I'm in my long iron range, and sometimes I'm right there. The short iron that I want to bring is a Hornet, and the long iron I want to bring is a Saturn. And the reason I'm bringing my Saturn is because if I am in between clubs, there is a backboard here, and you can backspin it back down that backboard, and my Saturn's got better backspin. If I'm in a spot where I can run it in, my Saturn will still work for that. It's a great utility club. So it'll work no matter where I end up down here. But ideally, I want to be in my max short iron range. But this hole right here, it's all dependent on this drive. If you end up out here and you're behind the trees, it's a much more difficult shot. And you can get this done with an extra mile. You'll gain more distance on the setup out here, but as far as like what you'll net on the other end, a big topper will net you a little bit more, but big toppers are very inaccurate. So if you're going to bring an extra mile and you've got some 4 power balls, that might be the way to go. But practice that at the beginning of the week, because that 4 power ball is the characteristics are gonna change, and you don't want to come out here and go, hey, I've been in the right spot and I just want to get a little bit deeper, so I'll bring a 4 power ball, and now all of a sudden you're in the rough. So you have to practice that shot. All right, hole number 2 of the Golden Outdoors Tournament is going to be Eagle Peak par 3, hole number 2. Excuse me. Now, on this particular hole, I'm bringing a Guardian and Navigator, and my Navigator is putting my red line right down here at the bottom, so I'm at minimum Guardian, which is the way I play it, it's 1.7 per ring. And I'm going to go right at it with a 30% wind adjustment. Now you can bring a sniper and you can start off more on this side over here, but one of the things that I see a lot of people do when they're over here is they're just one ring off because of what kind of movement you have to get on the ball to get it to go right at the hole. They'll push up against this rough area, and I see a lot of people If you hit a great to the left, you're going to clip that rough and you're going to dribble out or get caught up in the rough. So if you want to set your shot up over on this side and you want to run it up to the hole, my recommendation is to make sure you give yourself 2 rings of distance over here and set the shot up from that point. That way you've got a grate to the inside and you can still achieve your shot. I'm going to try and avoid all of that stuff by hitting right here and going straight at it. So Guardian, Navigator, minimum club, 1.7 per ring, 30% wind adjustment. All right, hole number 3 of the Great Outdoors Tournament is going to be at Greenock Point. And this is going to be hole 6, par 5. And this is my favorite hole in the game. I like this course because it's very technical. And I like being on this course in one-on-one play because people will make mistakes on the drives on these holes and end up in a bad spot and not be able to get the score. This is a very eagleable hole, but you're going to see a lot of people epic fail and end up with birdies. And so if you come here and you shoot consistent, you'll end up with an eagle every time. And in one-on-one play, you can win a lot of matches playing this hole. In tournament play, I'm doing the black line for sure. All of this stuff out here is an optical illusion. The greenskeepers are always pissed that they have to take care of this section here because nobody uses it. That is done. This is out of play. Pretty much all of this fairway out here is out of play. We use this pad up here at the top, and we're doing a hop over and then going straight at it. Now, on this hop over shot, I'm using a QB and a Saturn, and I'm using what ball did I pick here? A Katana. I'm using the Katana because of the side spin, and we don't really need anything bigger than that. There is a shadow when you're out on the course. There's a shadow right out here, and my goal is to be right along the outside edge of that shadow. If you hit it farther forward, you have plenty of fairway out here. The problem is that the farther forward you hit it, now you're behind the trees, and you're trying to hit to this pad. And so where the shadow's at, you have a window. Now you can be short of that shadow and still have that window, but then you get into a distance thing. So it's really important to not overshoot this and close that window off. The shot to the green, I usually put my second bounce so that it's right on the transition between the rough and the fairway. If you clip that rough, it's not the end of the world. It will roll forward down that hill and you'll end up on the green. You'll end up fairly close to the pin. If you hit the fairway, it's going to look like you're going into the green at about 1 billion miles an hour, but it will slow down very quickly. Even though it's a downhill green, it will slow down very, very quickly. So the goal here is to get up there, get your birdie, or get your eagle and go home. This is an albatross. You can get an albatross here, but it's not a high percentage albatross. I think the video that I show, I got an albatross on it. And I have hit several albatrosses on this hole. I love this course, so I've played this hole quite a few times. All right, that was hole number 3. Hole number 4 of the Great Outdoors Tournament is going to be Greenock Point, hole 3, par 3, hole 1. And on this hole, what we're doing here is there are 3 lines, but in rookie, this black line is the best way to go. You're going to do a 10% wind adjustment. I'm bringing a sniper just because it has great ball guide and it's easy to make wind adjustments with it. So that's going to be my pony of choice on this particular hole. Let me write that 10% down. All right. Hole number 5 of the Great Outdoors Tournament is going to be Greenock Point, hole 4, par 4. And these Greenock Point par 4s are tough. They are eagleable, but they are tough. And in my opinion, there's really only 2 ways to go at this hole, either the white line or the yellow line. I prefer the yellow line. If you go with the white line, you're going to, where your landing zone is on the green down here, you have nothing to work with as far as fairway. So you're going to have to bring, if you're on the white line and you get up into this area up here, you're going to be in your short iron range and you're going to need a short iron with backspin. So either a thorn or a claw. If you have an upper level claw and it has more accuracy than your thorn, I would probably use the claw, but that's just my personal preference, whichever you feel most comfortable with. If you're on the white line and you short shoot it just a little bit, you want to make sure that your next club is a Saturn and your next club is a Guardian, so bring all of your backspin stuff. If you overshoot this shot and you end up way up here and you overshoot it, I would bring a rough iron. I would bring a machete. Could even think about bringing a Houdini just if you're up in that area. I prefer the yellow line. I like that angle coming in. And the other thing I like about it too is that if you do have a problem out here and you get caught up, you have more fairway to work with to try and get yourself back into play. And it's a pretty straightforward shot. Extra mile, tighten. I think in the video I didn't take the wind out, but the real way to do this is to set the shot up properly, is to take the wind out. We don't need to use the wind here because we're not using max topspin. And then dial that in as the week goes on so that you know exactly how much topspin to get you out in that area. But if you overshoot and you end up in the rough, you can easily get on from here. And you have a little bit more fairway to work with. I have found that when you're on the green, here's the pin, it is a very steep hill. And that when I'm setting my shot up for my backspin, it's not going to hit and then come back to the hole. It's going to hit and drop straight down that hill. So you want to be fairly close to behind the pin when you're setting up the shot into the green. Alright, that was Granite Point hole 4. That is hole number 5 of the Golden Outdoors Tournament. Hole number 6 of the Golden Outdoors Tournament is going to be Eagle Peak hole 5. Or excuse me, par 5 hole 6. And this is definitely a max overpower shot to get yourself up into this area right up here. And then coming at it. Now when you come at it, you've got several choices. Choice number 1, which is the least optimal, is to bounce over. And the reason that it's the least optimal is that from bouncing over here, you need enough topspin to get over to clear the rough, but not so much topspin that you blow past the green. So typically the only time I'm going to do that bounce over is if I'm doing a recovery, where I ended up out here and I ended up in a rough iron or something happened and I have to recover, then that's going to be the shot that I'm going to take. But that's the only time I'm going to take that shot. I think in the video I show doing a Guardian shot from right out here and you're going straight out the hole. And when we played this tournament in the Fall Major, this is the first time we'd seen these holes. So I still think that the Guardian shot with the backspin, I need to do some wind adjustment. And when I shot the Fall Major, that particular tournament, I decided to use Golf Clash Notebooks app, and I kind of dedicated myself to it, and I used the numbers off of it to see how it worked for me. And I used it for that whole tournament, but I didn't like the numbers, because I was missing shots with some of my clubs where I felt like I would have made it if I'd done my normal wind adjustments and just did the math like I've done it since I started playing. So I quit doing it. I quit using that app because I just didn't like the wind numbers. I do think that probably the best way to go for hole-in-one is to do a rough bump from here. And if you're going to do the rough bump from here, instead of using a Guardian, you're going to bring a sniper. And so you're going to do that rough bump and try and bleed out towards the hole. It does not take a lot in order to get up to the hole. But I think in this tournament, I'm going to work this shot right here, going at it with the rough bump, because I think we'll have a better shot of getting a hole-in-one. But you have to bring a club that's got some topspin. It's going to take topspin in order to get it up there. So you're not going to be able to do this with your Guardian. So if you brought a Guardian here and then you're like, hey, I'm going to do the rough bump instead, it may or may not work because you don't have enough topspin. All right, that was hole number, what were we on here? That was hole 6. So we're on hole number 7, which is also an Eagle Peak hole. It's a par 3 and it's hole number 4. This is another shot that I'm going right at it. Once again, I'm using a Guardian, and I'm going to start off on the green side. And I'm going to use a Guardian and a Navigator and go right at the hole. I'm not taking any risks with all this stuff. There may be some, wow, if you hit over here, you got this wonderful hole-in-one look. I don't care. I'm not going to mess around on these par threes with all of these sand traps. I'm going to act like none of this stuff exists, and I'm going to just focus on this green. I want to get up there. I'll find a spot where I can wedge my rings in as the week goes on and really go for that hole to try and increase my odds of getting hole-in-one. But this course is going to be pretty tough out here on the field. There's opportunities for us to pick up shots, and we cannot afford to drop any shots on a par three. If you get a birdie on these par threes and you go home, you're going to be fine at the end of the day. And so I'm going to definitely want to just go for the birdie. If I can increase my odds of hole-in-one, then great, but I'm definitely going to just stay on the green. All right, the next hole, this is a hole number 8 of the Great Outdoors Tournament. This is going to be on Greenock Point, and it's going to be a par 4 on hole number 8. Now, there's several ways that you can go with this. If you're taking the black line and you're coming over, what I find it when I do the black line is that it's better to actually do a rough bump. So you're doing the black line, you're doing a rough bump. Here's the deal with the black line. If you have an extra mile, you need to bring a marlin. Okay, because there's very little, you're right up against the red line. You have very little maneuverability. So depending on the wind that we get, you may or may not be able to dial the wind out. And I'm going to bring a Titan. And then I'm just going to do the rough bump to try and get out onto the green. That's one way to do it. The other way to do it is to come at it in your white ring and just start off with the rough bump. So you're still going to bring your extra mile, and you're going to bring a Titan. And starting off, I've done both these shots, and I like this shot better because I'm taking all of this stuff out of play, and there is a wind adjustment that we need to do here. We need to do a 10% wind adjustment, and it's super important if you're coming over here that you have to do that wind adjustment. Otherwise, because you got to get so close to that rough in order to get over here to make this shot happen, that if you make a bad wind adjustment, you're clipping the rough here, and you're in big trouble. And that's one of the reasons why I'm not doing this shot. I'm going to come forward and do this shot because I don't want this whole hole to be dependent on me being right up against that line and then making an absolutely perfect wind adjustment. I'd rather do the rough bump. And the goal here is not necessarily to get on and get in the hole. The goal here is to just clear this rough. If you're anywhere in this area up here, you've got an awesome shot to get on and get in the hole. Some people will do the shot from over here. I've never really liked the shot from over here. If you're playing in the upper tours where you're coming in at it, this shot right here and the shot from over here are actually viable shots. This shot from over here you can work so that you end up in this lower spot all the time, and it's a super easy chip to get on. But the pony that I'm going to pick for this is definitely going to be the white line. I'm going to do the rough bump and try and get on to get my eagle. This is a very eagleable hole, and we're going to need to get an eagle on this hole both times through. This is just one of those holes that if you don't get an eagle on this hole both times through, there's going to be 10 other people in your bracket that did, and you're not going to be able to catch up to them. So the par 4s that are in this particular course are super, super important. Hole number 1 in the Great Outdoors is definitely an eagleable hole. It's a very tough eagle. But the other 2 par 4s are very eagleable, and we have to get eagles on those 2 holes. And this is a must eagle. So as the week goes on and you're practicing, this is definitely a hole to be focused on. All right, hole number 9 is from Eagle Peak. This is hole number 9 of the the Golden Outdoors. Hole number 9 is going to be par 5, hole 9. This is another monster hole. Max overpower, extra mile Titan, trying to end up somewhere out in this area so that you've cleared the trees. We're looking at about 400 yards, I think, is what the yardage is that we're looking for. Now, everything here is rolling to the right. So everything here is going to the right. So that means that when you watch the video on how I set the shot up, I'm here. I'm in this area right here, and my ball guide is going straight towards that sand. I'm up in that area, and I'm doing a max overpower shot, and I'm going to put on right hand side spin or a curl. So let's say I set the shot up so that it was going straight down through the fairway. And I didn't put the right hand curl on it because I wouldn't need to, because I had it lined up. And I hit a great to the left. Then it's going towards the sand. And there's nothing, it's not going to deviate. It was a straight shot. I did max overpower. I pulled straight back. I let it fly and it goes off to the left. There's a good chance we're going to clip this. If I hit it to the right, there's a good chance we're going to end up in the rough out here. But by starting my shot off towards the sand and leaving the right hand side of the fairway open, when I set my shot up, instead of doing straight backspin, I did some curl at the same time. So when the ball hits out here, let's say I hit it to the left. When the ball makes its first bounce, it's going in a left direction because I hit it great to the left. But that curl immediately takes effect and pops the ball back straight again and brings me back towards the right-hand side of the fairway. If I hit it great to the right, I started off so far to the left that when I hit it great to the right and it makes its bounce out here, the curl takes effect and throws the ball to the right, and I end up out in the fairway. So I have a much better shot of getting in the fairway by starting the ball off to the left, putting curl on it, so that when I hit, it's not going to make as big a difference if I hit it great to the left or the right. It's still going to end up going to the right and towards the fairway. So that's why I set that shot up like that, and hopefully that makes sense. But whenever you've got shots like this where everything's going to the right, you want to start off further to the left so that we can apply curl and use that curl to make sure that we always stay in this fairway area. Conversely, if everything went to the left, I would do the same thing. I would start further off to the right, and then that left-hand curl is going to bring me back to the left, and it'll help make up for mistakes. If you hit it straight through and you've got your ball guide going straight through and you have to hit perfect, then you have to hit perfect, because if you hit it great to the left or the right, you could end up in the sand or the rough. On the second shot here, I'm bringing a Guardian, and I'm trying to get far enough out in here that I can start off on the other side of the sand so my ring sets are here and I can go straight at the hole. You need to get the 400 yards out here so that you can clear this tree line. So you need to be in front of that tree line, and that's at about 400 yards. We don't want to have to contend with those trees. And the farther back you are, the more you're going to have to be out here in this very narrow stretch of fairway. And I want to be deep enough out there in the hole with a big enough wood that I can hit in front of that and end up being out here with my ring set going straight at the hole. All right, that's just some basic stuff on it. I did post videos. The videos, don't look at the names because they came from different tournaments, but they are in the right order, so you can walk through the playlist and kind of get an idea what the hole looks like in play. But that is going to be the 9 holes that we're going to be playing for the Golden Outdoors tournament that starts on the 5th. Thanks for watching.